Every time I run into somebody who's like, oh my God, I feel nervous, I feel anxious, I'm like, unless you're medicated to the point of being catatonic, like you should be. These are massive shifts in the biggest parts of society that have implications for every single human being. You're living through 3 once-in-a-generational shifts in the most important parts of your life, in how you're governed, in the superhuman AI technology you'll soon use, and how your reality's formed. I'm Jim VandeHei. I'm co-founder of Axios.
And I'm Mike Allen. This is Behind the Curtain, where we bluntly tell you what the smartest people across business, tech, media, politics are plotting, thinking, and doing.
In tactics, in tone, government is way different today than it's been at any point in anyone's lifetime.
All the norms of just a decade ago are out the window. Both of the parties are reinventing themselves in real time. So you take the Democrats, like they are not really sure why they lost so badly.
Yep.
Biden to Trump, they just can't see it. You know, I'm a very gifted, handy person.
Oh yeah.
If you don't know why it's broken, you can't fix it.
It's indicative of a much larger conversation of a party that doesn't know what it stands for, but it's changing probably as much as in some ways as the Republican Party, because it hasn't stood for anything concrete, at least under Joe Biden. You have a genuine conversation taking place that Democrats might fully embrace socialism. They look at the job market. They look at AI.
They look at polls.
They look at how scared people are about their health care coverage. And so you have that reordering of the Democratic Party. I'd say certainly more dramatic is what you've seen with Trump and with the Republican Party. It does not resemble what the Republican Party looked like for our lifetimes.
No, yeah, you look at George W. Bush, Mitt Romney, all these people, Paul Ryan, all these people that we covered back when we were day-to-day political reporters, completely different views on trade, completely different views on Russia, completely different views on deficit and debt and whether the long term matters. Like that has completely changed. And it's partly because like the Republican voting coalition, the people who vote for Trump, MAGA is very different from GOP.
The world of politics has changed so much and come so full circle that in many ways you have people in MAGA like Steve Bannon who feel closer ideologically to Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren than they would to a Mitt Romney, because there's this genuine rethinking about how do you satisfy, how do you take care of the working class. It's no longer that Republicans are just a party of big business. If you actually look at how they won because of the working class. That used to be the damn base of the Democratic Party, no more.
Right. This is the move from plutocrats to populists.
What people need to realize is that we govern radically different than ever. Whether you like Trump or not, the way he's governing in terms of empowering the presidency to reaches that we've never seen is actually what our forefathers warned about. King-like powers, where they get to determine everything. They get to determine how we spend money. They get to determine how businesses behave. And the thing about politics that you and I talk about all the time is I've never seen a new tactic, no matter how unsavory it is, used by one party that the next party doesn't use against them.
And ratchet it up. And they are coming back. And this is where Republicans and Trump officials particularly are in denial. They are acting like their team is going to have the ball forever. That is not how American politics works or is going to work. And so that's why the very, very minimal times that House Republicans or Senate Republicans buck Trump, it's over this. They know what they would suffer from when he's long gone and they're stuck with their own precedents.
Every Republican who's been elected has essentially fallen into line on an ideology that they would have found abhorrent 10 years ago. They're suddenly okay with big government or intervention into markets or not wanting to deal with free trade or breaking out of NATO. So when we talk about this generational change, you have no idea where it's going to end.
Everyone should think about the way their own views have evolved and their friends. So my friends, Donald Trump started as a punchline or someone that people like admired because he was like rich and successful, right? And Then, like, they loved the idea that he was sticking it to the man, that he was talking up to people. Then people started to think some of it was kind of icky,
Right.
some of it kind of mean. Then they hated the other side more. Then they were against the press. Then they were against people who were against Trump. And now they're fully radicalized. Think how many people you know who've gone through that cycle.
Yeah.
And that's where you're not going to have it set in stone.
And the big change, I was just thinking while you're saying that, is that basically politics has gone from being a textbook to music. And what I mean is it used to be about policy. It used to be about the substance. You used to have like an attachment, usually an intellectual attachment to an idea. Now it's how do you feel? And with Trump that you're talking about with your friends, it's like they don't necessarily agree with what he's doing. It's like, how does he make you feel? I like the tough guy thing. I'm sick of the big guy. I'm sick of institutions. It's an emotional thing like music. I feel good. I like that.
How do you feel and who do you hate? And that's the other piece of this that's animating both sides and gets both sides to do things, think things, the ways that they never would because they hate the other side. For the Democrats, you were talking about how like socialism's increasingly appealing.
Yeah.
Why not? Like you have young people who are entering the job market in the job market. My nieces and nephews are early career, and the stats on them buying a house, the stats on them having the life that your parents had or my parents had, it looks bleak.
Yeah. And put this in a time capsule, like you can play the video. A couple of years from now, the next big political movement will be someone's going to emerge as an anti-AI, anti-robots, big government socialist.
Yeah,
there's so much appetite for that. It seems so obvious based on looking at polling and how people feel about it. There's going to be job displacement, and it's going to be just a rich, rich, rich pool to vet.
If you were going to invent the next Democratic nominee, perhaps next president in a lab, exactly right. Anti-AI socialist.
Let's turn to artificial intelligence, which on the bear case is going to be as big as the internet. On the bull case, it's going to be bigger than electricity or fire. This is a generational technology. It might be a civilizational level technology. And the reason is it's going to hit every aspect of every person's life, no matter where you live or what you do. That almost never happens.
Somebody finally said it to me in a way that stuck with me, and I use it to get people's attention. And they said very quickly, like not being fluent in AI, not being comfortable with AI, not using AI, fully embracing it is going to be like having an iPhone that's not connected to the internet, like having a laptop that doesn't have Wi-Fi. That was my aha moment.
And for the people that are skeptical, there's some people, it's overhyped, it still hallucinates. The thing that I can't stress strongly enough is every single company that is the largest, most well-funded company in this country, many of which are bigger than nation states themselves, are all putting the vast majority of their investment dollars into AI. So you'd have to have every one of those companies have to be making a strategic, historic blunder simultaneously while China and every company there is doing the exact same thing.
These places are betting the house. And even if there's an AI funding bubble that pops, that it doesn't take away the technology. It's just like there was a .com bubble earlier in this century, but it took away pets.com, but it did not take away what powers your iPhone. We have a little bit of a grace period here. The tools are out there and the tools can vastly improve your life, but you're not going to lose your livelihood if you don't embrace them. You have time to learn them, get fluent with them, get comfortable with them. Very soon, sooner than we think, you're not going to have any choice.
I think anybody who puts their head in the sand, and I understand it, it causes you anxiety, it's scary, you hear
you don't get it.
Right? You don't get it. Like, you have to get it. Like I did a speech to our team here at Axios a year ago, and I just said, I know some of you are scared, and I said, going forward, I don't give a shit. And I don't say that to be callous. I just say it as a ruthless realist. Start using it for the specific work you do today. Think about it as like a team of assistants that are working for you. How do you take what you do, what you care about, and force multiply it? Maybe you could be doing the work of 10 people. And when the change comes, and the change is coming, you want to be ready. You want to be able to be one of those employees, one of those people who can do a lot more because they have this like superhuman, super powerful technology working by their side.
A very inspiring and eye-opening way that you've said it around Axios is, what if you knew the internet was coming, right? Like, back off that a little bit. What if you knew electricity was coming? Let's be very practical. If you knew electricity was coming, think about how much money you could make. Think how many jobs you could create. Think how many lives you could save. That is where we're at.
Yeah. And the thing that kind of pisses me off is that that government does nothing about it, right? Like, I understand, like, put aside whether you regulate AI, it's like just getting people ready for this change. Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, told us, said, listen, you could see unemployment tick up to 10 or 20%. You could lose half of white collar jobs.
White collar entry level jobs have contracted already by 13%, which is a significant fraction of what I predicted. But what I'm really worried about is where the technology is going. And I think there's a little disconnect here where people will sometimes say, oh, you're worried about what AI is going to do to jobs, but AI can't do this, AI can't do that. Well, we're talking about today's AI. The technology is moving quickly. I'm worried about advance in the technology and diffusion of that technology through society. And that's where I get to the 1 to 5 years. As with most things, when an exponential is moving very quickly, you can't be sure. This could happen faster than I imagine. This could happen slower than I imagine, or something very different could happen.
He wasn't saying it hyperbolically. He's building the damn product, right? Like, he doesn't, it's basically, she's scaring people about the product he's building. Right. He's saying, I'm worried that we're not, as a society, equipping ourselves.
Yeah. And because you have a chance to empower the people you love, the people you work with, the people you work for, the people who work for you. And people are always saying, well, whatever the effects were, you wouldn't not take the Industrial Revolution. But like, you read the history, you see that it wasn't just a few years of workers who lost their jobs. It was decades, even generations, for lots of people to catch back up. And so that's why we have to use this time to figure out, how can it be your force multiplier? How can you be confident? Can you see AI as opportunity?
And it's, in some ways, this is like more interesting than a movie. It's easier to read than a book. Like, pay attention to it. You're living history. You know that it's coming. And yes, it might be frightening, but you should be eyes wide open and be like, wow, what is happening? How will this change things? What are the ethics of it? How should we think about the limits of it? I just think it's something everybody, especially young people, should be thinking about and talking about.
A lot of conversation at Christmas parties about the fact that neither party is delving into what can be done, should be done for this disruption that's coming to employment, sure as shooting, as Grandma Powers would say.
The reason, right, goes back to governance, is that if you look at the polling, like, people like us, like people in positions of power or people who have money, the AI is awesome. Like, we're super optimistic about it, or we're certainly optimistic about its ability in a business setting. But you look at polling, and most people are scared. They're fearful. They don't like it. They want it regulated.
They say, I did not ask for this.
Silicon Valley and Washington, which hated each other, viewed each other with great skepticism, have fully merged. Right? These technologies cannot exist without deregulation. Government can't do the things that it needs to do, including wage war, without the technologies that they build. Take us inside how Trump thinks about it.
From my conversations with the people who work in the White House, like, they think that to get ahead, to keep up with China, to get ahead of China, that we need lots of next generation technology that's all found in California, not here.
And I would say, like, you just take Trump and David Sachs, who's like the AI czar for the White House. Like, if they were here, they'd say, like, we're being way too skeptical, way too pessimistic. They think it's going to be a game changer. It's going to cure cancer. It's going to make it so people don't have to work 40 hours a week, so kids could get educated a lot easier. They are all in. Like, there is no breaks, no regulation, no hesitation. at all. So there's nothing you can do to rein in the technology. And if they're right, that's awesome. If they're wrong, whoa boy.
The third generational shift is how our realities are shaped and formed, how we get our information. That if you go on certain social media channels and look at one set of videos or even like one set of interpretations of the same videos, you go to the other set or another set of social media, same videos, different interpretations. If I saw only this, I'd agree with them. If I saw only this, I'd agree with them.
Yes, and it goes to what you and I call the shattered glass phenomenon. And this, especially for young people, they might not realize this, but like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we all looked through the exact same window. Whether
morning
TV,
paper, couple newscasts,
all the same rules, all kind of the same tendencies, same
topics.
Stories.
Yep.
And everyone then debated the exact same reality. You didn't have debates like this. That's been shattered into like 20, 30, hundreds of pieces so that when you think about your reality or my reality, it's based on what podcasts do I listen to? Which videos do I watch? Which news sources?
What's in the For Me feed?
Do I trust? Right. Who do I talk to? Who's in my social circle? You could be at a table. There could be 6 people. I could point out one person. That one person gets the vast majority of their information and their reality, therefore, from a platform the other 5 never visit, and trust people the other 5 have never heard of. That is why you have so much confusion about what's real right now. That's why you have so much mistrust and you have so much manipulation of information. In some ways, this generational shift might be as profound as AI and more profound than the shift in government, because if no one believes anything, it's hard to do something.
The most common text that I get these days from even extremely sophisticated news literate people is this real? Is this video, this photo, this quote, is this real?
You and I read almost everything. We have pretty good discerning eyes as for like what's real and not real. And you and I get fooled and you and I get confused. So no wonder people who aren't knee deep in the news get confused all the time. We just didn't think about the consequences of hooking up our brain to a screen and somehow having to discern what's real, what's not real, what's real, what's not real, and the stuff, even if you know it's not real, subconsciously what it's doing to you.
And it turns out that people who disagree with you, they may not be bad people. They may not be idiots. Some of them are, but it may be that they're just getting a totally different reality. We saw this in real time when Trump sent the National Guard to California. In one information bubble, you saw the federal officers way outnumbering the protesters. And you're like, oh, like they're like inciting trouble. Then you go to a different information system, and what do you see? You see people throwing Lime scooters off ramps onto California Highway Patrol cars. You see Waymos on fire. Jim, here's the important part of that. Both of those things were true. But if I only saw one, I'd agree with them. If I only saw the other one, I would say they're the ones who are right about this.
And that would be like another like news you can use thing, which is like when something happens, like there's an earthquake or there's a fire or there's like an uproar in LA or what happened with Minnesota, is just wait. Just wait. What's going through social media, all these impulsive reactions are almost never accurate. They're almost always misleading. They're totally confusing. And then understand that people do have an agenda and that you have to try to sort through like what's real, what's not real, so that you just have a better portrait of what's happening. And again, I think the other thing you could do is just reconnect with people. Like the more time you spend in your community talking to people and trying to figure out what's real and not real, I think that's what most people do. Most people do anyways. And again, like you can dog all these technologies and you could be scared of AI and you could be worried about politics. But the truth is like, you live in a really interesting time. Literally, when you have 3 generational changes happening at once, it's by definition historic. You're living history. So pay attention, open your eyes, learn, and just understand the reality around you. And if you do, then I think you make better decisions and you see the world more clearly.